Now it's my pleasure to introduce Stefan Liozu. Stefan Liozu, PhD, is a pricing evangelist and thought leader, as well as the founder of Value Interruption Advisors. He specializes in the design of innovative and differentiated business strategies for B2B firms and the implementation of value-based strategies. Stefan works closely with B2B organizations around the world and acts as a value coach for value transformations. As a Prezi certified change manager, Stefan focuses on making sure all value strategies and tactics are fully adopted and embraced by organizational actors and on developing an organizational mindset for value. So with that, Stefan, welcome.
Hello and good morning. It's a pleasure to be here again with Leverage Point and to share with you some of my learnings from what I'm doing around the world, what my research is telling me from hundreds of practitioners. So today, as I've been working and talking to a lot of practitioners and professionals in the area of value and pricing, I wanted to share with you some of what I hear from the field, from these projects and from my research, and it's all around the value mindset. And we'll talk the next 30-40 minutes. We'll talk about this, what it means, and how you improve it. And that's why we put that carefully in the title of this webinar. It is about continuously developing a mindset for value to accelerate your value transformations. And we'll talk about the difference between doing a value transformation that may take 10 years and one that may take 2 years or 3 years. And one of the critical component of the acceleration and of the transformation itself is the focus on the value mindset. So I'm happy to share that with you today, and then to collaborate with you on some of the poll questions that we'll have in store for you. So, I remind all of you that value is important. Value is a science, and there are value masters in markets, in B2B markets. Obviously, I share with you here some as well B2C companies, but the value masters that you see on the screens are well known, and they are well published about their value transformations. And they do use the right value-based pricing software and methods. And those are companies that have put value, customer value, and we're all talking about customer value, at the center of their strategy. And then the question could be, well, yes, but is that working? And so I, since all of these are publicly traded companies, then I went out and found their 2014 or 2015 results, and I'm listing here their 2014 or 2015 EBITDA, earning before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. And obviously, we only have a few companies, a handful of companies on the screen, but you could see that the value masters, when they pay attention to value and they put value at the center of their organization, across their functions and inside their overall business strategies, you see a tremendous difference in their EBITDA levels. Now, and these are well published. And if you look at actually today again, Jim Cramer from TNBC just re-emphasizing the pricing power of Apple, despite all what's been said about Apple's, and their focus on experience and customer value, delivering an 18% EBIT on huge amount of sales. But Apple is not the best in class. If you look at Johnson & Johnson, 3M, Bayer, Crop Science, and other divisions of Bayer, Monsanto, these are companies that understood that value is important, and customer value obviously as well, financial value for sure, and they've really designed a strategy that put value at the center. So I wanted to re-emphasize that to make sure that you understand that a value transformation is not easy, but the payback is real. And there is a difference between the pricing transformation and the value transformation. There's different implications, which we're going to talk a little bit about. So what we're talking about when we say managing value, and this is, I like to refer to that slide as what I call the 3M model, and other companies have adopted it, including myself when I was in industry managing businesses. And obviously, it all starts with a huge amount of innovation. And today, we have no choice but to compete on innovation because there's more and more, especially in B2B and I2I, industry to industry, there are more and more low-cost competitors. And so the name of the game is being able to create differentiation through different types of innovation, like process innovation, service innovation, software innovation, product innovation, obviously. So from there, then you go to the 3 steps of value management that you see here: value creation, value assessment, and value capture. And it shows, you know, the importance of these 3 steps really show why you need to pay attention to the value mindset, because these steps are not easy. Now, obviously, from innovation, you would imagine that these teams are creating programs and R&D activities to really emphasize value creation with customers. Then it's the matter of not jumping straight to value capture, but being able to do EVEs, or understanding the value exchange, or you know what we also call the value bridge, which is how much value economically do I bring my customers through that differentiation. And those are financial benefits that you dollarize in euros, cents, yens, or pesos. Once you know how much value you create and you measure it, then you can share it. And you share it using the mechanism of value-based pricing, understanding the value pool, and then going out and, you know, obviously sharing some with your B2B customers and keeping as much as you can, so that you increase your price realization, you increase your EBITDA level, and then you reinvest in innovation. So it's a sustainable value management wheel. I call that a revolution because it turns, which forces you to constantly reinvent yourself, challenge your value proposition, challenge your level of differentiation, and make sure you have a disciplined value management process, which includes the 3 steps, and that's very critical. And then the wheel goes on, and you create what's called creative destruction, where, you know, as you see commoditization, affecting your level of differentiation, and you may self-cannibalize and introduce new technology or product, or replace a product by a bundle, etc. Always finding ways to create superior value for your customers. So that's essential as a foundation of the value mindset, because you can see here that in the 3 components of value, there's much more than the pricing team working. Right there, you can see there is an innovation team, there's the R&D team, the engineering team, the technology team, and obviously the marketers as well. So then we're talking about 2 dimensions overlapping. And it's really a value approach to growth that requires a strong discipline for value, from value-based innovation all the way to value-based selling. So it's multifunctional in a way, from innovation to marketing to pricing to selling, right? And I include, obviously, in marketing, in my definition, is communications and technology and some technical support, the vast definition of marketing. And then on top of this, you have to superpose the 3 steps of value management: creation, quantification, and capture. And this is why it gets a little complicated, and that's why it is different than a pricing transformation, because a pricing transformation is obviously multifunctional, but it is not as stringent as far as collaboration is concerned, the embeddedness of pricing across all these functions. Pricing will be everywhere, obviously, but not as strong as value, because value is really in every function of the organization. Because people should get up in the morning and try to understand how much it can influence customer value, and that's what we're talking about, mindset. Then that begs the question in that slide is, who manages value? And who is in charge of customer value today in organizations? So here is a short poll for you, and I would like you to take that poll and answer the simple question: who is in charge of customer value today in your organization? Let's take a couple minutes to answer that, because it's essential to the answer of value mindset.
and I've got some answers coming in. Looks like we have about 40% of the audience has voted so far. I'll let you know when it gets up to 75% or so. Just click your answer on the screen.
Thank you for that.
All right, Stefan, looks like we have about 85% of the attendees have answered. So I will go ahead and close that poll.
Okay, so we're looking at a obviously a multiple answer for and the answer is correct. The answer is everybody is responsible for value, but the main question is who's in charge of it, who's managing the process. And we can see here we have sales is number one in the response, and marketing finishing number two. So it's surprising to see management at 35%, because at the end of the day, top management is definitely, if you put value, customer value at the center of the strategy, then you would imagine that the CEO, the CMOs, and the CFOs also have an interest in value. Anyway, thanks for sharing this information. It's quite interesting. So now, when you enter into a value transformation, there is things that have been published about how to do them. It's not new to the world, and you can see that if you've read my pricing journey book, or if you've attended all the workshops at PBS or other associations, you know that you need the champions on board. You need to have the right capabilities. You need to have the right systems and tools. Obviously, as I mentioned before, you have to have some kind of a management process for customer value, and sometimes it'll be not as exhaustive as I mentioned. And I see a lot of, for example, a strategic account management association, you see a lot of value creation processes, a little bit less of value quantification and capture, which is more pricing. Then you have value experts in place, typically your marketers, your communication people, or your pricing people. And then you're testing and developing your value propositions and value models. So these are the tangible actions that you would take as you do your transformation as part of a roadmap of value, and whether it's a total value transformation or a value-based pricing transformation. So in theory, then everybody should be able to do a value transformation. Now, what happens is then when organization, B2B organization, go into a value journey, which is at the end going to the pricing power zone that you see here, high level of price realization, of value realization, and using value-based pricing as a primary orientation. But what happens is lots of companies get stuck in the zone of good intention, and definitely there are multiple barriers to a value transformation. All kinds of things could happen: takeovers, M&A, the crisis, lack of courage from the top. You name it. I have lived this. I have seen and experienced many possible barriers and challenges to a value transformation. But one of them, and that's the one that's the most interesting, is a lack of value mindset. So yes, we have the tools. So yes, we have the systems. Yes, we have the experts. But at the end of the day, things don't change. And for things to change, besides doing traditional change management, which is vision, road mapping, training, communication, and coaching, there needs to be a tremendous level of attention paid to the value mindset, and developing the right value mindset to accelerate that transformation towards the pricing power zone. And that's why after many years of bathing in the field of pricing and transformational change, then I'm realizing more and more, and I'm learning as I go. I can tell you it's fairly complicated, because we're talking about psychology and human development. I'm realizing more and more that the change of mindset is critical. So at the end, I will make a statement today, and I'm working on getting the backup, the backup for this through research. But mindset is everything, and you could have the best tools, the best systems, the best experts. you will have to focus on transforming your value mindset, which is rewiring the habits and the routines of what your folks in your organization, the sellers, the marketers, the prices, will do on a daily basis. And what I'm talking about is focusing a lot more on value, customer value, doing the homework, doing activities before you even discuss price in the market or with customers. So it's rebalancing the traditional approach that we have today in organization in the B2B world. 75% of the discussion is on pricing tactics or pricing process, and then 25% is only on value. So we need to rebalance that. So let me ask you a question. If I ask you today to rate your value mindset as it is, from 1 being very weak to 5 being very strong, how would you rate your current value mindset in your organization today? And obviously this will be perceptual, so I'm not, we're looking for trends and perceptions and less precise answers, so just indications.
We have about 75% of attendees who voted, so if you'd like to tell Stefan your answer, just click the 1-to-5 ratio on your screen. All right, looks like we've got about 80% who's voted, and I will go ahead and close that poll.
Great. Okay, so we have in the middle of the range answer 37% of 3, and I'm not surprised, 12%, being very weak, and the extremes 12 and 12. So, it is obviously difficult to have a very strong, very powerful value mindset, and it takes a lot of effort. And I'm going to show you some of the what I'm finding in, through discussions and projects and research. So thanks for doing that. I appreciate it very much. So a value mindset is, also inspired me to create this comic that I know, you know the comics that, I published every month, and there's different ways, obviously, to change the value mindset, and some of these ways I found, kind of a humor is always good at carrying the, so it's not looking at Red Bull or vitamin C or hypnosis or coding, learning the new language, or wrestling the everybody for to change the discounting nonsense. There are some standard management tools that are used. Obviously, as you can imagine, compensation systems are going to drive mindset change. Motivational objectives and the carrots, what we call, and those are available on my website. All these comics, if you want to use them, you can download them for free. So what is a mindset? That a mindset, in the definition of what you find on the web, is a set of beliefs or a way of thinking that determines behavior, outlook, and mental attitude. So, and I extending this a little bit by doing some research. You're really looking at habits, routine, and how you frame your daily actions you take in the business, the frames of reference. So as people go into their daily job, they use norms, value, priorities, and aspirations to decide what they're going to do, as they enter the workplace, or they visit customers, or they design their next new product. So what we're looking at, the mindset change, is how do you change all these frame of references, or the mental locks, the mental models, and the values, and it's easy to change priorities, but when you get into the norms and the mental frames, then it takes a little bit of a hustle, I would say. But what we're trying to do in the value transformation, when you go into mindset change, is to really create irreversible change. So now think about someone who's done product development for 20 years the same way, by looking at cost first and then looking at competition, and suddenly you're asking that person to go and look at value data, doing research in the market, go to say, let's go do some voice of customer research, and then take that qualitative information and transform that into a value story or value proposition, instead of having a traditional routine of going through, okay, I have cost models, it's more quantitative, I feel good with the data, and I'm going to do a cost plus. That's what gets very complicated. because these habits, these routines and mental frameworks are stuck in our mind, right? This is how we work, we operate, and it's difficult to break. So, I propose that there are 5 A's to changing a value mindset, and you have to address these 5 components at the same time. It starts with attitude, then you have to take daily actions and the habit of doing things differently every day by practicing, developing the right ability through traditional training with coaching and mentoring, for example, creating a sense of accountability not only in individuals but also in teams and organizations, and creating a sense of you have to be adaptable. Because at the end of the day, you have to manage what you currently do and the way you do it. And now we're asking you to do something different, which is value messaging, value creation, value capture, and all these activities that are opposite to your values, your priorities. So you're creating a need for ambidexterity. Okay, we know that you're not going to change overnight, but we're going to ask you to continue what you're doing and try to improve, but try something new. So you have to be highly adaptable. So I'm going to focus only on 3 today because of time constraint. And I'm going to look at A, first of all, A for attitude. So here is obviously the foundation. Someone has to be willing to learn. Someone has to be willing to experiment, have a great sense of optimism and hope to do something new, and have a sense, yes, I want to be successful. And that sense of resilience is really at the heart of the confidence. I've been doing quite a bit of work on confidence, not only individually, but at the team level. And the confidence comes from, yes, I have hope. Yes, I understand the vision. Yes, okay, I'm going to fail, but I may fail, but I'm going to get up and try again and not fail. And the first time I fail, I'm going back to my discounting routine or to my cost-plus model. And I like that quote: the optimist lives on the peninsula of infinite possibilities. The pessimist is stranded on the island of perpetual indecision. So imagine now you have a value transformation, and you're engaging 300 people in your process, and you have to understand if you're facing 80% of pessimists or people who are not used to learn or a culture of optimism. So you may have to do some highly motivational activities to get these people energized and willing to take on new learning methods, new content, new knowledge. So the attitude is going to be very important in changing the mindset. Then we have A for action, right? And I do love that quote: inaction breeds doubt and fear, action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit home and think about it. Go out and get busy. So action is key in developing a value mindset. Every morning, whoever is involved in your value transformation has to take daily action to practice with new concepts, new tools, new methods. And that includes a lot of different components. So I have developed 10 specific actions that you could take on a daily basis. For example, establishing a schedule of daily value messages around vision, around brand, around differentiation power that you can project to the people you talk to, internally and externally. Another example: making phone calls to your value coach or your trainer every week or every day. If you need help, list the actions that didn't go very well and then go and ask for help and feedback. Another example: learning how to collect value data. On a daily basis, you force yourself, if you're an account manager and you're visiting 6 accounts, you're going out there and asking questions specifically on value to be able to feed back to the marketing people who are doing value models. So the action here is specifically asking questions to your customers. What does that mean to you? How much will you be willing to pay for that? How much of a pain this represents in your process? Then I'm proposing that you could actually have value action logs or personal improvement plans or a value journal, which I created for one of my projects. A value journal is daily entries in what you're doing for value every day to increase the level of practice that you have. Then you take that journal on a weekly basis and you share it with your coach or your supervisor and discuss, this is these are actions that went well, others didn't go well. And then you ask for feedback. So there's a lot of different activities that you can create, and that's what's missing. A lot of value transformation are great because training is proposed, communication plans are put in place. You may have some methods coming your way, but at the end of the day, it's all about practice. And when you have an account manager in the field, or a marketer in an office, or a pricing professional somewhere else, what do they do when they get to work in the morning? It needs to be very concrete and practical, and it needs to be formalized. So action breeds confidence. The more you do it, the more you get better at it, the more you actually start changing the habit. But it's not a matter of doing one or twice, one or two things a week. It's about every day you need to do 5, 6, 7 things. And the more you do them, the more you'll be comfortable to leave behind the always. Then we have A for ability. Obviously, you have to create the right abilities, capabilities in your team by doing traditional pricing, training, value training, segmentation training, and all these modules that are included in the value transformation. Then the practicing again in the classroom or in the field with a mentor or a budding system where you pair an account manager with a pricing person, an innovation manager with a marketing, and then you practice value messaging together. So coaching, shadowing, and role-playing. And this is Carol Dweck right here, who is actually one of the gurus of mindset, and I encourage you to read her book. And what she says is talent isn't passed down in the genes, it's passed down in the mindset. And to change the mindset, you have to make efforts, and you have to get into daily practice, and it creates a sense of achievement. So it's not a matter of focusing on intelligence, it's a matter of focusing on effort and creating a sense of accomplishment in your teams. And I'm not only talking about account managers and salespeople. I'm talking about a CEO, a CMO. I'm talking whoever is involved and critical in the value transformation needs to be, having a kind of a mindset engagement. So attitude, action, and the last one, ability. So let's go back to action, and I'm going to ask you a question, because I think it will be interesting for you to see if you're using some of the following practices in your current value process today. And I mentioned a few, there is a lot more. You take a couple seconds and take this poll to see what you can actually tell us. So first one is a value and change vision that's formalized and it's communicated, value coaching, value scorecards for specific accounts, customer value file that you can use for interaction with customers, and then maybe a value journal, just as examples.
We might have a lower participation rate if we have attendees not doing any of these, but I will let you know when we get up there. It looks like we've got about 50% who've voted so far.
Okay.
All right, looks like we have about 65% voted. I'll go ahead and close that poll.
Okay. Great. So, those are, I focused on the traditional methods for use in the value process. Obviously, the change vision and the value vision is important. Coaching for value is important. The scorecard is also a tool that's very well used in organizations, in B2B organizations, including the customer value file. So this is quite interesting, and I thank you for sharing these. So at the end of the day, we're talking about moving an entire organization from what's called a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And here we're looking at the skills, the challenging, the effort, the feedback, and the setback. So on the right side, it's what we want to go, and a growth mindset is really, wanting to improve, wanting to really learn new things, the willingness to embrace challenging and to grow personally and to be more resilient. Right, and that sense of effort is, I'm gonna really spend sweat equity and give it all my best to that value transformation because it's important, and I understand it has to be part of my priorities. And then receiving useful feedback, giving feedback to the teams, understanding that feedback also is for your self-development and not just for compliance. And at the end, ability to if you've done a great job at understanding the burning platform for change to move towards value, then use that to really drive your resilience to get up and go. So I mean, we're talking night and day here in the approach, in the way of thinking and managing habits, routine, and norms and values, from going to maybe being stuck in what we do today and being maybe complacent or happy with the current status quo, to being, really being able to learn and self-develop and participate in an exciting project as a team. And as you can see, I would tell you, in my experience in value transformation, I see lots of sales teams and marketing teams that are very interested in learning and self-developing and understanding that value need, right? And sometimes the fixed mindset is in the C-suite. Especially when the C-suite might be dominated by manufacturing or supply chain, or I'm not saying there is no growth mindset in its functions, but sometimes if we have more of a cost mentality in the C-suite, then it's going to be difficult to move to a value mindset. There is also in the C-suite or in top management a tendency to focus on ideology. Everybody thinks they know about value, but actually no one knows really about value, because value is a science. You have to learn it, and it cannot be improvised. So yes, we understand that value is important, but what does that mean? And a lot of the time when I explain the process between creation, quantification, and capture, there is an awakening, and you realize it's not easy. So if I do a value transformation, I can get a C-suite to attend a workshop for a day on doing value quantification or value models, trying to craft value messages. They really understand that there is a need for ability, but also it needs to be a daily practice, because it's not something you do once and then you stop doing. So I really want to emphasize that need to you need to put your organization into a growth mode and a learning mode. So how do you create then a value mindset? How do you get started? And I found that in transformations, that one of the best way to start is to create a dashboard of value, to understand value metrics, and to start tracking with the right teams and the right individuals, maybe business unit leaders, maybe directors of marketing, director of sales for regions, director of account management, have a clear metric in place. That's called a value dashboard, for your organization, that will see, okay, are we moving the needle? Do we have the daily practices that we need to have to be able to change the mindset? So not only do you have to track them and define the right ones. So for example, number of customer value propositions that have been done, number of personal value journals that have been created by the sales force, having a value gate in the stage gate process for new product introduction. So all these things become daily practices to improve value abilities, and you have to give each function in the transformation a set of practices, a set of tools they will have to use on a daily base. And obviously, it's not a choice; it's a priority that has to come from the top. So yes, we're serious about doing a value transformation, and this is how we're going to do it, and we're going to track this way, and that means that 6 functions in our group will be impacted, and this is what you're going to do on a daily basis, or weekly basis, on a monthly basis, and then you track. Number 3 is, you've heard before about the importance of success stories, value stories, and value success stories. When you have wins in the market, or account managers that have done well, a new product that's sold with greater pricing and better value realization. The more you share these, the more it creates a sense of confidence, the more you get resilience from your team, and their embrace, it creates kind of a snowball effect. So success breeds confidence, and confidence breeds success. So that's important. Number 4, it's kind of a changing the type of encouragement and praising we're doing with value transformation. It's really praising for effort. It is hard work, and yes, you're going to be not doing the best the first time, You may have difficulties, in doing new things, but at the end of the day, we want to encourage people to be perseverant, to make personal investment, and not to get it right the first time, not to be very intelligent, not to have the best-looking value journal. So it's a blend of, praising for obviously success and good work, but also efforts. Yeah, continue doing it. You're doing well. All right, yes, I understand. 9 out of 10 didn't go well, but you had one good, and let's go and continue projecting values. So, and that's key in the science of mindset change, to recognize effort and perseverance, and not just intelligence. And at the end, it's a focus on personal transformation as well. So although a value transformation may be organizational, it may be involving large teams over multiple regions, but we're talking at the individual level, and people have to transform. They have to learn, they have to unlearn what they learned before, and they have to really break down these mental locks and these values, sometimes values that stop them from learning. And you do have people like this are a bit more pessimistic, and they're happy with the status quo. They just want to be in their zone of success, which is, doing things that they do well. And then we're asking them now to do something much more difficult and much different. And the inner narrative is the fact that, you're going from, oh, I may fail, or, oh, it's not going to be easy, I'm not going to be good at it, or, what happens if I fail, to, I'm okay to take risk. I'm going to try it. I'm willing to learn through this process. So rewiring the inner narrative is important. And as you can see, it's a lot of psychology, and that's why you need coaches. Now, one of the key things that I haven't mentioned here in this program is the fact that value transformation need to have the HR teams and the people development teams on board, because when you get into discussing mindset and coaching and learning agenda and personal development and personal transformation, and again, I'm not just talking about the sales force, you have to get support, because who's going to do that coaching? Who's going to actually, it's easier to create the daily practice activities or the tools, the action, but when you get into attitude and you get into ability and accountability, you need some support there from professional coaches. So you may have seen that slide before, because I use it quite a bit. It is at the end all about learning and developing an ability of an organization to learn faster, better, and to grow faster than competition. And this is why you could see sometimes value transformation that are done very quickly, and not in 4, 5, 6, 7 years, but because when there is an ability in the culture already to learn, and there is a philosophy of learning, then people are more open to new things, to taking risks, to learning new ways of framing problems and addressing customer issues or responding to pricing objections. So at the end, that's what makes a company more sustainable and also more competitive. And if you go back to the Value Masters, I can imagine that there is going to be a lot of people development behind this, and these companies invest a fair amount of budget in personal development and team development. So this is pretty much the end of this presentation. I only covered 3 of the A's. I understand the rest. I'm continuously working on this topic because it is essential in value transformation. And I think if you're embarking today, or if you're already working in pricing of value, in the field of value pricing, if your company is going through a transformation of major projects around value-based pricing or value strategies, I would encourage you to add a component around the mindset change. And I encourage you to visit my website and contact me if you want specific, input or tips. And this, this is going to be a work in progress. I'm hoping that I can do more research around the value mindset and how it impacts, the timing and the intensity of value transformation. And we all agree it's difficult. We all agree it takes time and effort. But I'm hoping to find a little bit more of a sweet spot here and the secret sauce that will go and say, okay, in B2B, when you do a transformation around value, customer value, then you can accelerate by doing these, focusing on the 5 A's. So I thank you for your attention today, and I'll give it back to Taylor right now. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Stefan. And for those of you going, Stefan will be hosting a one-day workshop at the Professional Pricing Society's 27th Annual Spring Pricing Workshops and Conference on Wednesday, May 4th. The title of his workshop is Value-Based Pricing and Differential Value Quantification, Best Practices to Understand, Apply, and Operationalize Both Concepts in Your Organization. And attendees of the workshop will receive a copy of The Pricing Journey. So for more information, please visit PPS's website at www.pricingsociety.com. And we've had a few questions come in during the webinar, and there is still time to enter your question into the panel on your screen. While you're entering, a reminder to complete the 10-second survey while exiting today's webinar to be entered into a raffle giving away 1 copy of Pricing in the Salesforce, 2 copies of the ROI of Pricing, and 2 copies of Pricing and Human Capital. Now, to give you a few more minutes to answer your questions, I will have a few words on leverage points. So, in a Forrester Research study, 319 executive-level buyers at global companies were asked about salespeople's meeting preparation. 62% felt that salespeople were knowledgeable about their company and their products, but almost 80% felt that salespeople did not understand their customers' business issues and where they can help. As Stefan pointed out, companies have to do a better job at transforming their sales and marketing efforts to communicate customer value. Sales cycles are long. It's important to add value on every call in order to move the sale on to the next step. B2B companies that provide sales reps with the right tools to create and communicate the differentiated value of their offering early have a major competitive advantage to win the business. According to Sales Benchmark Index, over 60% of forecasted deals do nothing. That means you lose to status quo more than all other competitors combined. How does that happen? Well, it happens at the beginning of the sales cycle. When a salesperson starts initial customer meetings, giving a long corporate PowerPoint presentation about their company and product capabilities, they lose the opportunity to present their value and create customer dialogue. Leverage Point sales users show a master value proposition shown on the screen, early in the sales cycle, created by and editable by marketing and product management. Whether they're selling to VP of sales, product management, or marketing, or even the C-suite, how do you want your salespeople to communicate the value your offering creates for the customer? A digital, smart, interactive value proposition is the compilation of the expertise from your value-driven marketers, product managers, pricing, and sales enablement professionals. Sales reps now have a cloud-based tool that easily communicates the ROI and value that your solution provides similar customers in their industry. It clearly shows this in graphical and summary form. Beneath that, you'll see assumptions that can be quickly modified in the meeting to align with the buyer's data. Beneath the assumptions, the overall value being delivered is broken down into specific value drivers that can be drilled down to further for those buyers that are interested. Marketing collateral is provided in the tabs all the way at the bottom, including industry case studies, videos, and white papers. Leverage Point sales users are saying that by presenting this value to the customer early, they're wasting less time with unqualified prospects, allowing their pre-sales resources to spend more time working on winning qualified opportunities. So now let's look at the impact that has on the middle 80% of your sales force. Assume you have 200 sales reps and an average sales value of $100,000. Let's be conservative and say that presenting value early in the sales cycle provides just 1 additional qualified opportunity per rep per year. That equals $16 million in additional qualified opportunities entering your sales pipeline. With a modest close rate of 20 to 30%, that's an additional $3.2 to $4.8 million in sales per year that drops right to the bottom line. As Stefan mentioned, a value mindset creates increased profitability. If you're interested in learning more or seeing a personalized value proposition, please check the appropriate boxes in the survey upon exiting today's webinar. That's it on leverage points. So to get back to Q&A, I see we've had some great questions come in so far, and to answer the most popular one myself, yes, the webinar is recorded, and the slides and recording will be emailed to you within 2 business days. So now to moderate the session and to moderate Q&A, I am pleased to introduce Peyton Marshall, Leverage Point's Chairman and CEO. Peyton.
Thank you very much, Taylor, and thank you, Stefan. I think you made such a critical point that value pricing, value selling is not just training, it's practice, it's adoption, and it's a mindset. So thank you for that. First question, who should lead the effort for the value mindset?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I get that one a lot. And obviously, when you do a value transformation, there's got to be hopefully a pricing, team involved with a sales team, account management should be involved, and so you have all these folks assembling into a project team, and I'm hoping that someone in charge of value is going to be in charge of value transformation, typically for marketing or from pricing. Then that person is going to be the person in charge to put the mindset in the actual transformation as either an activity, as a strategic initiative, and then that person will need to find some help, and either getting a coach or getting someone from HR or a very charismatic leader who will be, managing the mindset portion of that transformation. And most of the time, what I see in the B2B world is it's difficult to find, HR professionals that are very mindset oriented or leadership development oriented. They're more traditional HR. So it is complicated. And if you haven't received any training or you haven't done mindset work before, you definitely need to have a professional coach to help you come in and what I call the value coach, and that's why sometimes I go into projects where I go in and I become part of the team to help them on the mindset change side. But I would say the theoretical answer would be a top leader, and the executive sponsor should be, or the CEO or the business unit leader should be really focusing on mindset, because it starts in the C-suite, and he has to, everybody has to make sure that in the value transformation all the right functions have, some mindset modification as well.
Great, thanks. We're getting a lot of questions, so we'll only be able to cover a few of them. Here's another one. How do you engage a sales team to get a sales team spending time on selling value instead of going the easy route, going to price and discount? Is there a daily action you'd recommend?
Yeah, so and it's an excellent question, because typically I remember one of the A's, adaptability. So let's assume you have 200 salespeople and you train them on value, and it's not complicated, segmentation, value, and value messaging, and they understand the content and they're willing to do it. But yet when they return to their daily job, they already have a full plate, and that plate usually is using traditional legacy structure, legacy objectives. Maybe the wrong compensation system, so they're stuck in their current, fixed structure, and you're asking them to do something different. So what I typically recommend is try to make some changes in the plate that they have to free up some time, and usually you do that by doing maybe better segmentation and spending more time with your value buyers, for example, and let them, create some time during the day, half an hour or 45 minutes, where they can start experimenting with a value journal or a customer value file or value messaging. So obviously you're going to create a toolbox of all these brochures and differentiators and value messages. This will come automatically to them either through CRM, push to them through their iPad, or they may have a leverage point value proposition pushed to them in a PDF format. So that is coming. But then if you don't have time to do it, then it's not going to be easy. So you need to create that maybe half an hour or 45 minutes every day that you can do that, and usually it's done by reducing a bit of the complexity and changing the existing that's in place.
Great. Let's get to sort of the focus side of how to get organizations to learn fast. So in terms of a practical focus, where do you start? With a product launch? Do you think about sort of rolling this out in a business unit, global rollout? What are best practices and what have you seen work?
Well, yeah. So I always recommend when in value transformation, early on the transformation is to look at a change management roadmap. Okay, and the roadmap will be tied to the value roadmap. What the transformational roadmap. So if you, for example, do a lots of training up front in your organization and you pick 2 pilot projects to work on value-based pricing or value transformation, then in the training program at the corporate level, you'll start building content on value mindset and obviously with the rest, what's a value strategy, what's a value transformation, and focus on the value mindset. Then you will go to the pilot project level and engage the specific business units or product line or innovation team and engage them to create the right environment to be more successful. So I think you cannot, if a value transformation is only with a business unit, then it's a whole different game than if it's a corporate value transformation with 2 or 3 pilot projects. The mindset will be done whatever the scenario is going to be. It has to be in the roadmap though. It has to be a component of your change management approach, and it has to be very strong then when you go in, not only in the design phase, but in the execution phase, and everybody needs to go through it. So it depends on how you set up your roadmap.
That's great. We have a lot of questions, and Stefan will follow up offline for the ones that we aren't able to get to. One last one, Stefan. What barriers should you expect? Why does change like this fail? And what do you do to avoid that?
Well, that's a big question, and even I can tell you that in my experience, even if you do the traditional change management activities, as I mentioned before, you need to double the dose on the mindset change. And that's my experience. I came from practice, from industry, and I've done a lot of transformations myself, and I did a PhD in the topic. And even now I realize that the focus on mindset is never enough, because you're rewiring people, values, and frame of reference and mental models. So, change management is going to work. It's going to get you to a certain level. But if you want to, between a transformation that will take you 5-7 years, if you want to go faster, and right now we're in times of fast. Top management and investors don't have time to do a 7-year transformation. So you have to bring the big guns on the mindset change. And that has to be a strong component of your change management approach. So what could go wrong is the mindset at the top, of the organization is not there. Okay, that could be a big barrier to the change process of a transformation. What could go wrong as well is, having the wrong training program, or thinking that you're going to put all your sales team in a room for 3 days and you're done. No, a transformation will take you 12 months to 18 months of continued training, continued coaching, and multiple interactions, and over a period of time, because you need to repeat and repeat and repeat and let them practice. So the way you design your training program is also going to be critical. And too many times in B2B, we say, well, why don't you come at the national sales meeting and you give us 2 hours on value, and that's it, we're done. No. It's 2 hours per month for the next 12 months. And then, and then you get into resistance. Well, our people should be selling. They don't have time to do training like this. Well, it's not training, it's practicing, it's different. So that's when you get into the discussions of change management.
That's great. Thanks very much. That's all we have time for. Back to Taylor.
Great, thank you both. And Leverage Point's next webinar, More Data, More Money, Understand Customer Value to Monetize Data Assets, will be presented by Alan Hollander, a director at Simon Kucher & Partners, on April 13th at 10 a.m. EST. If you're interested, be sure to register in the exit survey. And that's all from us today. Thank you all for taking the time to join us, and a special thank you to Stefan and Peyton for your insights. And from all of us here at Leverage Point, have a wonderful rest of your week and take care.